If you've been scrolling through endless guitar lists, watching YouTubers rave, and still feel stuck wondering whether a semi-hollow is really worth the extra price tag, you're not alone. That hesitation usually comes from two places: the fear of buying an instrument that sounds great on a demo but turns into a headache on stage, and the worry that you'll spend a lot of cash on something that doesn't fit your playing style. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review I'm going to break down the Yamaha SA2200, walk through the real-world situations where it shines, point out the moments where it might hold you back, and help you decide if it's the guitar you should actually take home. First off, the SA2200 is Yamaha's answer to the classic semi-hollow vibe that players like to associate with vintage jazz and blues tones. It looks the part, that brown sunburst finish catches the eye, and the double cutaway body gives you easy access up the neck, which is something you notice right away when you're trying to hit those high-position licks in a live set. But looking good is just the start. The question is whether the instrument delivers the tonal flexibility and reliability you need when you're moving from a small coffee shop gig to a louder club. Let's talk tone. The SA2200 uses two humbucking pickups wired in a classic configuration. In a rehearsal room, you'll find the mids nicely rounded, perfect for clean jazz chords that need warmth without getting muddy. When you roll the tone knob down and push the volume up, the guitar can bite into a crunchy overdrive that still retains clarity, which is handy if you sit in a rock band that wants a bit of bite without a full-on high-gain sound. I tried it in a home studio with a modest audio interface, and the natural resonance of the semi-hollow body gave a pleasant depth to clean arpeggios, especially when I used a light compression plugin. That's the kind of subtle ambience you often miss on a solid body when you're recording with a clean amp setting. Now, the real test comes when you plug into a live PA. Semi-hollows are notorious for feedback when you crank the volume in a resonant space. The SA2200 isn't immune, but its coil-splitting switch, the one that turns each humbucker into a single coil, provides a practical workaround. In a small club with a decent monitor mix, I was able to keep the volume high enough for the audience to hear while pulling back the coil split for the clean parts, which reduced the howl dramatically. It's not a magic bullet, you still need to watch your positioning relative to stage monitors, but the feature gives you a tool most beginner players don't even know exists. Weight is another hidden trade-off. At about 7.5 pounds, the SA2200 feels solid without being a burden, but it's heavier than many slab-body Strat-style guitars. If you're someone who hops on and off the stage every night, or you travel a lot and have to cram gear into a gig bag, the extra heft could become noticeable after a few hours. On the flip side, that mass contributes to sustain, and many players I've spoken with said the note decay feels bigger than on a typical Fender Telecaster they own. So if you value sustain for melodic lines or solos that need to linger, the weight works in the SA2200's favor. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the neck profile. Yamaha went with a relatively slim C shape that feels comfortable for players with smaller hands, yet still provides enough grip for those who like to bend strings aggressively. During a jam session with a bassist who uses a thick fingerstyle technique, I could comfortably reach the high E string without cramping my hand, something that can be a pain point on some vintage-style necks that are too chunky. If you've been battling hand fatigue on longer practice sessions, the SA2200's neck could be a subtle but welcome relief. What about value for money? At its price point, the SA2200 sits between entry-level solid bodies and higher-end boutique semi-hollows. Compared to a Gibson ES335, you're paying significantly less, yet you still get the essential semi-hollow character, a quality finish, and Yamaha's reputation for consistent factory setup. That consistency means the guitar typically arrives ready to play, which saves you the time and cost of a professional setup. If you're a player who wants a reliable instrument straight out of the box for gigging or recording, that's a solid argument for the SA2200. However, there are a few practical weaknesses to flag. The hardware, bridge, tuners, and knobs is functional but not premium. I noticed the bridge saddles felt a bit softer than on higher-priced models, which can translate into a slightly less defined low end when you dig in with heavy picking. Over time, some owners have reported that the tuning stability can drift after aggressive string bends, especially if you don't lock the nut or use a locking tremolo. The SA2200 doesn't have one. If you're a heavy metal player who relies